All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's presentation. I am Kristen Boyd from Microsoft Corporation. This is how we dress on our day off. Accompanying me a little bit later today will be Anil Dash from 6 Apart. As part of today's presentation, we will be talking about how to extend your web experience to the Microsoft Office desktop. Oh, I need my clicker. So what's the point of this presentation? What's the point of being here? The idea is that there are over 400,000 Office users in the world. They're running these applications on their desktop as part of their productivity, part of their daily life every day. And how are you going to be able to reach them from your website, from your web services, from your presence? How are you going to reach them so that they can work in the rich environment that they have to offer? And how can you get more of your present, more of your logo, your branding, your features down into that system as easily as possible? So let's figure out how we can get things like productivity applications into Microsoft Outlook and how to get things like financial data and numeric analysis down into Microsoft Excel. And then on the server side, you also have the ability to deal with whatever technology you want. Because of the way we've exposed this, you're able to get to our user interface without having to build everything entirely on Windows. So your server can be running on Linux. You can write everything in Java. And as one of the examples today, I'm going to show you how we've integrated a lot of the eBay services into Microsoft Outlook. So our agenda today is I'm going to be talking for the first half of the session. And then we're going to bring out a guy in a suit so you can be just like all the other sessions. So we're starting out where I'm going to talk to you about how to develop for Microsoft Outlook 2007. So that's the version of Outlook the version of Office that will be coming out later this year, this calendar year. And we're calling it Office 2007. I'll be talking about how to integrate things into the user interface without necessarily having to write any Microsoft-specific code. So if you don't want to have to learn the object model, if you don't want to have to learn exactly how to program to Outlook because you think it's kind of weird, it's not your core competency, you don't have to do that. So that'll be the part about generating open XML documents. And then the second half of the presentation, Anil will be coming up to talk about blogs in business. Not that I can see all that well from up here. How many bloggers are out there in the audience? How many of you will be blogging about this session? Yeah, okay. All right, so believe it or not, I actually am a developer at Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for 8 years. I'm a little bit insane as a result. And some of the programming that I've been doing is in the Office applications. So this is something that I've been doing a little bit more recently, because for years I've been doing .NET development. I've been working in Visual Studio. I've worked on the last 3 versions of Visual Studio and some of the work in Visual Studio tools for the Office system. And now I wanted to show you how you can do such really exciting things in Office without having to be an Office developer. Because there's always been sort of this division of there's Office developers, they write scripts, they write macros, they write viruses. So what is it that an Office developer can do to make things really interesting in the rest of the programming world, in things like the web? So how are we making this easy for you? We've unified the object model. We've made it easier for you to work with, wow, these eyelashes are really starting to, my eyelashes are like 2 feet long. We've unified the object model and made it easier for you to use first-class programming languages. So you can use C#, you can use VB, you can use other types of .NET languages in addition to all the scripting languages to get to your applications. We've increased the security of any add-in that you might put into Outlook, so that if you write an add-in, you specifically brand it and certify it that this is yours and it's trustworthy. And that way the end user doesn't have to guess, is this some crazy virus that I accidentally downloaded? Or is this the real application that I bought from or that I downloaded from eBay or from Bank of America or from Wachovia? So you're able to brand it, and you then know that your Outlook add-in is completely trustworthy, or at least as trustworthy as you trust eBay or as trustworthy as you trust your bank. The performance improvements are really nice so that you're getting much more of a speedy responsiveness to anything that you program in here, so that your add-in behaves just as fast as if it was a built-in feature to Microsoft Office. Okay, what's really cool about this is now you're able to create a nice programming environment right within Outlook with the concept of form regions. So you can take up a whole region of the screen real estate in Outlook and make it your own programmable space. So if the thing that you want to do is to create a nice data entry screen or a great place to be displaying complicated information with a lot of controls and some graphics, you can do that with the form region. It's just about that's the new way of developing with form regions. In the previous versions, form regions in Outlook 2003 were a little bit fragile. It was our first generation of the technology, and you were able to do it, but a small number of developers did it. So only a couple hundred developers, companies went out and really developed on this. We wanted to take all the feedback we got from them to make it much less fragile so that you can really build some bulletproof applications that you can just deploy out there to any old user. You know, from mom and pop to a teenager who likes to mess with things until they break, to corporate users who really run the gamut in terms of their technical skills. As I mentioned before that we were only able to use VB script in the past, and now you're able to use any .NET language. And and Outlook development was different from the rest of Office. So if you managed to build a really great add-in that worked well in Excel, you couldn't leverage that at all in Outlook. So now we've unified all of this stuff together. So Office 2007, Outlook 2007 has a great form regions that gives you a full, rich Outlook's forms designer. The user interface is very easy to work with. You can brand your application exactly how you want to. And the add-in model is very easy to deploy. It's just as easy as running a simple setup, just an MSI file, and it sets up everything you need within the user interface and your registry settings, and it sets up the security, and it logs your certificate. Just a brief overview of the different controls. In my demo, I'm only going to be showing a couple of pieces that made sense for the demo that I was working with. So we do have a category strip, and I have a photo, but it's not a contact photo. I'm not using the electronic business card preview, but it's available. So this is just a brief listing of all the different controls that are available. So for my particular application, what I did was I worked with the eBay Developers Program. Has anybody here ever built anything for the eBay Developers Program? All right, we got a couple. Are you guys the eBay employees who are here to watch my presentation? Okay. They're here to make sure I say everything right. eBay has a wonderful developer program. They have a great community site where you can share code samples. They have really good responsiveness. If something within their developer sandbox isn't working, it's like, we know this isn't working, we're working on it, and it'll be up in this short amount of time. So the development environment is really nice. They have a Windows developer community. They have a Java developers community with lots of shared information within the communities and even across the communities. So the developer program within eBay is really nice. And so that's what we use to create this great integration into Outlook so that I can better keep track of my eBay auctions. Now, I do track a lot of things in eBay. I'm an addicted eBay shopper. Anybody else here a big eBay shopper, buy a lot of stuff? Okay, again, just the employees. Okay, 2 other guys. So in order to keep track of all of your eBay offerings, you have to have, there's my eBay, and I'll be showing that in just a moment. But I wanted to be able to keep track of it in the place that I work all the time. And maybe it's just because I'm a geeky Microsoft employee, as you can see. But I'm in Outlook all the time. And it's nice to be able to use those tasks and reminders and schedules to help me keep track of where my auctions are, because I have my own strategy of when I get into the auction and when I place bids and how I outbid other people and when I decide to back off because the price is getting too high. So I want to be able to keep track of all of that. And so that's the motivation behind this demo. So let's take a look at how this is working. So here we have the website, and this is the developers program. So I am working in the sandbox. I'm not actually live buying things while you watch, but this is still a live site. I'm going out to the My Sandbox at eBay, and I have an alter ego, Kate Wolf, logged in. And I can see all of the items that I'm watching, so I'll have a lot of Elvis items. I am a huge Elvis fan. But the danger is there are a lot of other Elvis fans out there who are going to be bidding against me in these auctions.
Good afternoon.
So I want to be able to keep track of my auctions, not just in the My eBay site. So here are the items that I'm watching, and here are the items that I'm bidding against. And right now, I'm not winning on 2 of these, partially because this Elvis, perhaps the real Elvis, perhaps just one of many impersonators, I'm sorry, the real Elvis, is here trying to get back some of his possessions. All right, so how do we get over to your machine? Laptop. Velvet Elvis. So here he is, and he's searching, and he's finding some of the same items that I have.
Slow search.
Not real estate. Go to My eBay. Yeah. So what we're doing is the eBay site has a great feature called My eBay, where the king is able to keep track of all of the things that he's bidding on and all of the items that he's watching. So how are you doing right now? You're winning your items, but just to make sure that he's really winning them, he can add a higher maximum bid for this Velvet Elvis painting.
That's beautiful.
So while he's making another higher maximum bid to make sure that no matter what I bid against him, he will not be outbid. So by increasing his maximum bid, go to 45. There you go. Excellent. All right, so he is now confirmed. He's currently bidding. So when I look at it, I can see he's only bidding at $21.50, but secretly he knows that his maximum bid is $45. So anytime I try to bid higher than that, I will still be losing. But I don't know this because he's over in his own king world, Graceland. So if I want to keep track of this, and not just by going up to the website and going up to the website and going up to the website all day long, because of course I am a real software developer and I have to hold down my job to afford the dry cleaning. I want to be able to keep track of it in something like this add-in. So I'm in this folder called My eBay. And one of the great things that My eBay has done is it's set up a bunch of reminders for me of different auctions and when they're starting and finishing. And then within the My eBay folder, I have 2 other subfolders called Bidding and Watching. And what we've done is we have taken the item object within the object model, and we've overloaded it so that instead of just having a piece of mail or a task, we've overloaded that object and made it a bidding object. So in the bidding object, of course, we have a subject line, we have a date, we have whether it's important and whether or not there's a reminder alarm on it, but we've also added a couple of other fields. So we have what's the current bid. So I can see that I am currently losing my Velvet Elvis in a white jumpsuit singing into the microphone. My current bid is $21.50, or the current bid is $21.50, and it says here that I'm currently losing in this auction. So not only do I know that I'm losing, but I also have this flagged to remind me about an hour before the end of the auction, because that's when I like to jump in and get in there and bid it up and win it near the end. But just because I'm here and I want to make sure that you guys all get to see how fun and exciting this is to work on, I can see it both here down in, this is the custom control pane that I was talking about before, where I'm able to put all kinds of controls. I have a lot of dynamic links and I have a button, I can have other things such as a full table control, and I have a bitmap. And if I open this up and view it in more detail, I've also added to the new ribbon bar. And so for those of you who haven't seen the new Outlook and the new Office user interface, we've now allowed you to make much larger buttons and controls and drop-down controls with lots more colors and categories to them. So that when you create your add-in, you have more screen real estate, and you can brand your add-ins a little bit better. So now your users are getting the eBay experience and a lot of the eBay branding within their smart client application. So they can take this offline and keep track of all of their things when they're on an airplane or in a session where they may or may not have internet access. So if I go to my eBay, I can see that I have been outbid by another bidder. And I can increase it to say, I'm going to say I am willing to pay upwards of $38 for this lovely Velvet Elvis painting. And I confirm my bid. And then I see that I have still been outbid. So I'm just going to keep going until I know that I'm winning it. And I'm the current high bidder. And then I can leave the website, go back to my programming job, and know that in Outlook I will get an alert when somebody else outbids me. Now, as a part of your add-in, you can also go in and create custom settings. So if I go into Tools Options, I have a whole tab full of my eBay settings, including a security token. So that when you create your add-ins, you're able to customize the user interface, the icons, the button bar. You can remove things from the button bar. One of the things that you aren't able to do is, say, reply to an item in Outlook, because it doesn't make sense to just reply to an eBay auction. So we removed that and replaced it with the eBay place bid. All right. So I'm currently winning, and I will be getting the Velvet Elvis painting.
King was robbed.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to my lovely assistant. Now, if any of you are really interested in the source code for this, this is a fairly short session, so I wasn't going to be going into a lot of the details. It's a simple object model where you're able to create the item and start adding additional columns to it. You're able to make very simple web service calls out to the existing eBay web services. So they created their web services long before I came up with the idea of making this demonstration. And there are literally hundreds of developers in their program, and they have a very good compensation for it. If you make a buying tool like this one, so it assists buyers, then they have a good program where they work with you, and there's some form of compensation. And you can find out more about that on the Sandbox website. And the source code for this will be posted on both the eBay community site and on Microsoft MSDN in about 2 months, when we finish up all the code and get it working on the public beta build of Office. There we go. All right, so the code for the eBay project, we used the Forms Designer, we used Visual Studio, and we used the object model. So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to get in there and really build an application that uses our object model, you can still build great web services and allow some third party to build it for you. For example, Microsoft was the one who built the add-in for Outlook, because it's not really the core business of them to try to make sure that things work really well in Microsoft applications. So it's a great third-party design paradigm if your website exposes web services that can be called by anybody, whether they're coding for Windows or they're coding for Linux. Now, the other great way of extending your applications down to Office without ever having to touch the user's desktop. Now, so a lot of you may be thinking, I don't want to create an add-in that users then install locally, because then I'm going to have to support that, or whatever thing. If that's not something you want to do, the other great way of getting the information down to Microsoft Office is by doing dynamic document generation on the server side. So the most typical example of this is any banking website might want to expose all of their information, not just within a browser, or not just by exposing an XML file or a comma delimited file, but they might want to preserve the richness of the features they have to offer by generating an entire Excel spreadsheet. So if you generate the spreadsheet, you can include formulas, you can include pictures, you can include your bank branding and logos, and you can dynamically generate charts that show that they're getting great return on investment from working with your brokerage. So that's all the motivation behind it. So let's talk a little bit about the technology. Automatic document generation has been a little bit difficult in the past due to the proprietary model of the Office document formats. So in order to make it easier for your site to generate documents, we've completely opened up and exposed exactly how we are making this new open XML document format. So you can hook up live information from your server and help your end users not have to do just cut and paste or comment a limited file. So how does it work today? In Office 2000 and XP, it was entirely a proprietary binary format. You had to build these documents by opening up a version of Excel and working with the object model. You could not do it easily on the server without having to work with the executable of Word or Excel. So it was really no good at all for server-side document generation. Now in 2003, we took it another step. We created Word ML and Excel ML, which were pretty good for server-side. They still didn't provide the flexibility that most large corporations needed to dynamically generate hundreds and hundreds of these documents on a regular basis. It did require some complex XSLT. So how do we get past all this? We go to an entirely open format that is almost entirely XML. The parts that are not XML are things like pictures. That's still going to be binary. If you include any sound, that's going to be binary. But just about everything in there is XML. And this works with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. They all accept this new file format. Visio is not doing it yet. It will in the near future. So the entire standard was created with the concept that software developers would be creating this for automatic document generation on the server side. So what's inside of this file? It's basically a giant zip file. And if you unzip it, you can see a folder hierarchy. And inside of that folder hierarchy, you have the overall package, which is a zip. Inside of it, you have basically a table of contents, which is the relationships of how the different files work with each other, which is a parent, a child, how they link together. And then depending on if it's a spreadsheet, then you have a chart object. If it's a Word document, then you have more of a Word format of XML that explains the different tags. Now, what can you use this for? Developers can use this to automatically generate things on the server. It allows developers to just read and write to certain parts of it without having to bother with whatever somebody else might have done with the rest of the document. And it allows you to do things such as changing the style or the graphics without having to change the actual content. So if you have multiple developers on your team, and some of them are the financial analysts creating the formulas, and others are the graphic designers creating the color schemes and the branding of a particular promotion, then they can work separately and not stumble over each other within the pieces inside of this package. Now, what about compatibility? At the beginning of my talk, I mentioned that the idea is you want to target the 400,000 users of Office. But hey, this version is Office 2007. There are 0 users of Office 2007 right now. So the way that you're able to get to them is we are going to be creating and deploying patches, add-ins that allow you to run this patch on Office 2000, Office XP, and Office 2003 that will allow those older versions of Office to open, read, write, and save in the new file format. So that if your server starts automatically generating these open XML documents, your users, using any of the 3 previous versions of Office, will be able to use these documents. The other exciting thing is that there's a large fear of macros and potentially harmful macros. So we have created a new security model and file extension to help you keep track of that. If the document ends in an X, so docx, or a document template would be a dotx, then you know that there are no macros, and Word will not run any macros because of the file extension. If there's an M at the end, then it will enable the macros. And the idea is to make it very obvious to users, to file attachments, to any sort of sniffing and virus protection software you might have, to let you know whether or not macros are enabled or disabled on a document just by looking at the file extension. And then within the user interface of Word or Excel, there's also other ways to keep track of it. But the file extension makes it very easy to see and very easy to check in your code to see whether or not macros are enabled. So this is all a part of the open packaging convention that we have submitted to ECMA. I mentioned before, it's basically a zip file. So all you need is something like pkzip, or most operating systems will just be able to automatically understand the zip format and see inside and look at all the different document parts. And then as a programmer, you can unzip it and open up a part, read it in with any XML reader, and write to it with any XML coding language. So you don't have to have anything proprietary from Microsoft to build, to read, to write, to modify any of these documents. So before I show some of the source code behind how you do this, the idea is that the package, the OpenXML packaging convention, is the high-level zip package. And so that's the entire piece, whether it's a docx or a pptx or an LSX. And then inside of the package are all the different parts. Most of them are XML, a few of them are binary. And these are all of the parts stored within a tree in a hierarchy inside the package. Each part has to be typed, so there are specific content types, and that helps keep track of everything, both as a developer and as a designer. And the relationships help define the relationship between the package and its subparts and the parts to each other. The packaging API helps you program against this. So you can use the WinFX software development kit to help you use very simple IntelliSense within something like Visual Studio. So again, that's kind of proprietary, but you can go in there and it becomes very easy to program against because the IntelliSense allows you to just type along and you type package dot and you can see all the things you can do to create a package. And then once you've created a package, you can now add parts to the package. And then you can add relationships to the package. And the relationship functions all take different parts and allow you to pass in different behaviors that those parts will have relationships with each other. So let's take a look at how this might work. So I'm going to bring up Visual Studio, which is what we use to create this, this extension to one of our sample web applications. So inside of this sample web application, there's a lot of different parts to it, but we are just dealing with this one file here, the Excel exporter. And inside of Excel exporter, I'm going out and I'm doing a simple file read of an Excel template, so just a blank Excel. And then once I have that, I'm going to start writing in data that will be going in the rows and the columns, creating tables, setting column widths. And all of that I'm doing with simple read and write of XML. So I'm doing a lot of streaming, worksheet builder methods. So a lot of write attribute string. So you can do this in any language. You don't have to be doing it in C#. So as I run this in the debugger, it will bring up the website. Very slowly, it will bring up the website. Ooh, and if I do this right. I think it's having a hard time understanding localhost. So one of the things that you can do on a site, in addition to displaying the information for a user who just might want to look at it and browse it, a lot of users want to then go do some more analysis on it, or maybe hand it off to another financial analyst. So a great way to do this is to generate an Excel file. So when I click on Generate Excel File, I'm just going to go off and save this to my desktop. And it's very quick to do all of that XML stream writing. And when I open this up, I can see that I now have a lot of the same information, a lot of the same formatting, so that I still get some of that more consistent branding, and all of the same information, which I can now analyze. So some of the things I can do is I can do some conditional formatting, and I can see, you know, which expenses I'm spending the most money on using some of these graphical analysis tools. Now, I mentioned that this really is just a zip file. So if I add this file extension ZIP, so all I've done is I've changed the file extension. I haven't run any tool on it to change the document itself. And just by doing that, it means that if I double click on it, I can see it as a folder, as a zip package. And inside here, I can take a look at the shared strings, for example. And in the shared strings, this is a lot of the text-based as opposed to the numeric information. And so I can change this if I wanted to. If I wanted to make this international, that would be very easy to go in here and replace it with French or German. And it is dynamic, so if I make a change, I just have it in the browser. I don't have it in an editor. If I make a change, it would persist throughout the rest of the document. So if I open up the worksheet itself and look at worksheet 1, I have all of the details that I need. I have the column widths. I have the cells that I'm working with. And then when I get down into the details here, I have the actual dollar values of each one of these items. So this is all that I've done in XML. I've created an open document that can be created with any type of programmer who understands how to write XML. Just follow the simple schemas that we've got published on ECMA that are they're very easy to work with regardless of what programming language you're familiar with. Back to here. So the server-side document assembly, the technologies that I used for building this particular application, we used ASP.NET to build the host application. That's not required. You could build your website with anything so long as the piece that goes out and generates the document is capable of making an XML file. Now, using the WinFX packaging APIs is very easy to do in the .NET languages, but can be called from other languages. The OpenXML file format has been proposed to ECMA. It's the TC45 standard. It includes the open packaging conventions and things like the spreadsheet ML. So that's all of the details describing how to make a spreadsheet and how to have those shared strings and exactly how the XML is all laid out. And you can do the same thing with Word if you so choose, or PowerPoint. And now, for the fabulous part of the show, I would like to introduce Anil Dash.
Thanks.
Have a clicker.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Well, I don't look as good in that outfit, so I decided to skip it. What I'll do is you're very welcome. What I'm hoping to do is give a chance to show you a little bit about what we can do with blogs to kind of come the other way, because a lot of what we talked about in all the sessions so far and over the next couple days is Web 2.0 technologies or live era technologies. And you know, Office is widely deployed, so it's very easy to make the case of, well, we should go to Office 12 or Office 2007 because it has all these great new capabilities. But things that are, you know, Web 2.0 focused, it's really hard to get buy-in from your boss to say, look, we want to deploy this stuff, it's going to be great, because you have to actually make a business case. So what we're going to be talking about is one of the cool and core Web 2.0 technologies is blogs. That's what my company that I work for, 6 Apart, does. Is we provide blogging tools and blogging solutions for individuals and businesses. And so what I want to do is show you that there's a business case to be made for them and how we can kind of learn a little bit from what these cool new features do in Office to show the ways that blogs can really kind of take off in your organization. So what I'm going to first start is by showing enterprise mashup deployment. Actually, I'm not going to because it doesn't exist. And this really just typifies this idea that all these ideas of Web 2.0 stuff, like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny aren't real, and that we want to have something that is real enough that we can actually deploy it. Because right now, blogs don't play well with others. Any of these Web 2.0 technologies you talk about are kind of an island. They might have APIs and feeds, but they weren't really designed by grown-ups that have real constraints like deployment and budgets and having to answer to a CIO who says, I don't want to take any risk. Ajax apps in the same way are great at consuming data, great at presenting it, great at giving a good user experience, but you're at worse than screen scraping if you're trying to get data out of them. And so what we want to learn from is Office's abilities. And by abilities, I talk about reliability, manageability, scalability. It's a really important and undervalued set of abilities that we haven't thought about with a lot of these technologies yet. The bottom line is this is stuff that needs to be cool enough that you want to do it, that you want to work with it during the day, but still practical enough that you can make a business case for it and get it deployed alongside the Office 12 or the Windows Vista Wave things that you're deploying. So the thing to be wary of, and Robert Scoble's not in the room, but he is here at the conference, and you can tell him I gave him grief on stage for this. He talks about blogging being a revolution. Oh, it's going to change everything. No, it's not. It's just a tool. It's just something you can use like you use email, like you use instant messaging, like you use all the other communication technologies that help grow your business and build your business. So here's the review. Blogs are just an immediate way to easily connect and share anything you care about with the audience you care about. And the ones you think of, when you think of blogs, probably look something like this. It's cute kittens or people talking about trivial things that, during their day. And that's all true. There are a lot of blogs that are for personal use, and that's where it started. But just like email and instant messaging, it's okay. Just because email or IM or phones are used for personal use doesn't mean they don't have a business value too. And since you already know them, you read them, whether it's Scoble or Slashdot, you can take advantage of the fact that there's already millions of them out there. Because we do TypePad and LiveJournal at our company, so we've learned a lot from hosting blogs there. But there's lots of other services like Google's Blogger, MSN Spaces, MySpace. All of them combined together mean that millions of people are familiar with this already and are probably ready to take what they've learned at home and take it into the office and make use of it. In short, we're making blogs boring. A lot of the things people are going to tell you, Atlas is exciting and Ajax is exciting. Well, we don't need excitement. If you actually want to get to do this stuff during the day, you need to have this be boring as hell. You need to have it be like, there's no risk here, don't look here, go look over at that guy, he's doing something exciting. So we're going to talk about these abilities, predictability, reliability, manageability. We can also talk about scalability. Those are things that Office has in spades, that the Windows platform has in spades, but a lot of the things that you're talking about with gadgets and widgets, they don't have that yet. So let's give you something that's actually as cool as gadgets and widgets that has some of these traits. Because there is lots of cool tech there. There's things like feeds, of course, first and foremost, but also things like APIs and trackback, which is a way for having sites show when someone is linked to you. All of these things together, along with evolutions and identity in the consumer web, are coming together to let you have blogs be a really powerful and effective business tool. So again, it's about being cool enough that you want to be able to use this during the day, but boring enough that your boss will let you. So here's a real situation that comes up, because we want to help you make the case for this, is the classic email trap. 10 people get CC'd on a message, and of those 10, 8 of them are like, great, cool. That's what I needed to know. That gets me updated on this project. Now I know what I'm up to. 2 people out of the 10 you email are probably going to say, why the hell was I copied on this thing? This isn't something I care about. And then another 2 people are like, well, that person must not like me because I wanted to know about that and I didn't get the information. That's a real problem. That's a real world problem. And it shows like the real world is tough. So anytime there's a problem, there's an opportunity, right? Because you have all this confusion going on from these messages going the wrong place and going the wrong way. And you want to augment that with an additional set of tools. So we've got a real benefit. This is somewhere where blogs can help. This is the thing you're going to use to help make the case for using blogs in business. It's another tool to stamp out email overload. So let's make the case. The first thing we have to know is that the people in your organization are not like those of us who are here at MIX. If you're at MIX, you like new things, you like checking stuff out that's cool. Maybe if you're like most of us, you've deluded yourself into thinking other people think technology is cool. They don't, but that's okay. We'll call this a constraint. We'll embrace it. We'll use it to help educate ourselves about how to get this right. And what are some of the examples of how that constraint manifests itself? Well, we've got folks that want Word documents, period. That's all they want. They're like, I want a report on my desk in Word format on Friday. That's it. I don't want to deal with blogs and feeds and widgets and gadgets and all this other crazy stuff. I just want what I'm used to. That's okay. We just saw that Office 12 gives you this really powerful set of features for generating XML documents that are real Word documents, real Excel documents. That's a great advantage for us to be able to take advantage of in the future. And then even if you do succeed and you've deployed blogs everywhere or feeds everywhere, that's 100 new feeds. That's a problem. Managers in the company are not going to say, I want to subscribe to 100 new feeds because I just don't get enough information to filter during the day. You want to have them be able to get just the information that matters to them, that's important. And then there's one bit of good news. Since people don't want to learn, take advantage of what they already know. If your company is big enough to send you here, you already have bloggers in your company. That's something that whether you're aware of it or not, somebody, and it's probably you because you guys are geeks, but there's also probably some folks who aren't, who are saying, well, I blog in my free time, or my kid has a MySpace. What does that have to do with work? So let's accept your laziness. If you're a coder, you know that great coders are really lazy. We want to be great in that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, I'm not going to fight the behavior. Word docs, we'll give you Word docs. How about one feed? So instead of that 100 feeds, you're worried about too many feeds, we're just going to give you one. And it can show up in Outlook so it looks like email, so you won't even necessarily know it's a feed, and hey, you'll be the better for it. And if they're already blogging at work, it might as well be about work instead of about, I just had a rip-roaring time last night in Vegas, and I'm going to tell my whole family about it. So accepting all of these constraints, we're going to show you, one, how to win friends and influence people. And that just means how to use this technology in a way that your boss will like it, that the people who have to sign off and approve the deployment of technology will like it, and the people in your office who actually have to use this will like it. And that's the most important part. It's just like email, it's just like instant messaging on the phone or any other technology. You're trying to use the parts that people actually want to do instead of trying to convince them to do something they don't want to do. It's not like these giant applications where you send people away for a couple days and they come back not using the software and resenting you, and you still haven't gotten your deployment done, right? Like that's a huge problem, and we don't want to get into that trap. So the first thing to know about how to talk about using blogs as a business tool, it's cheap. People actually use it. You can measure the improvements in communication so you don't have that problem. There's two people that got left out on an email that wanted to know about what's going on. And it's not so boring that it makes you want to die. This is a really great thing because most of the time when we talk about tools that businesses use in software, it's so boring that it would never get covered at a conference like this. And that's a great way to make yourself look good because you're doing the combination of being an innovator, doing something original, but also doing something really practical and productive. So we're going to do a demo, and what I did is I actually canned it. It's on video, but it's all real. That's just to kind of keep from having any gremlins with network connectivity. And we're going to show posting in a regular blog form. Has anybody here not posted in a blog ever or doesn't know what that experience looks like? That's pretty cool. Okay, so most people are pretty familiar with this. It looks like email. It's just like the subject and the body in an email, and instead of hitting send, you hit save. We're going to publish a custom Word document. So Bob wants a report on his desk. We're just going to give him a report on his desk, and it's only going to be the things that we've categorized as important. So you don't need to read every post on the whole intranet from every blog. You're just going to get that Word doc, and it's the parts you care about. And in the same way, the managers that are worried about feed overload, oh my God, how am I going to subscribe to all this stuff? We're going to use the new open search functionality that's built into Office 2007 and IE7 and Windows Vista, and we're going to let them say, just show me the entries and the blogs that actually have relevance to me. So here's a demo of Movable Type Enterprise, which is our business blogging product, working with Microsoft Office 2007's document and RSS features. So what we do here is we start by creating a new entry in the blog. And again, you'll see here that the form looks just like a standard email form, just what you're used to doing. We've got some updates on our project. It's good news. Our budget's approved. So we're going to type out our message, a little bit of copy and paste for the message. And this is important news. This is something people really need to know about. So we're going to put it in the important category and then save that. What this is doing in the background is publishing. And it's the HTML and the feeds, the RSS feeds that you're used to, but it's also generating that Word document, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute. First, let's look at our published blog. It looks like a standard blog. This is when we refresh, we see that we've got our new post has just been created. It's great news. So this is exactly what we wanted to see. The update's there. People who are used to blogs can see that. I can also browse by category and then click on that Word document icon. And what that gives me is the same information that's in that category in a Word document here in Word 12. That's a great thing. This looks like the experience you're used to. You can take advantage of all that formatting and functionality that we saw with the open XML documents for Office. Let's go back to our blog. And of course, we've always had searchability in blogs, and that is what it is. You just type in the search box. But a better way to do it is using the IE7 support for open search. So what we can do is we've searched for the word problems in our movable type enterprise search, and we get a results page. This one's HTML, but there's no reason that we can't go up to that icon in the corner for the feeds and click on that feed. When we do that, what we'll see is the IE7 feature for subscribing to feeds. We can read over the content that we have. We've got the ability to sort that, as we saw earlier today. But in this case, we're just going to subscribe to it, and that's in the integrated feed center that all of the Office and Windows Vista applications use. So we can download files. If there are attachments describing the problems that we had, we would be able to get those. And let's take a look at our feeds that subscribe. Here it is in the browser, but of course that's one true store for all of our places that we subscribe to feeds. So now we can go down to Microsoft Outlook, and this is Outlook 2007, and we'll see that we've got a new feed. We click on it, and now we've got a list of what was the problems that came up across all the blog posts in our company today. And that works for one blog, but that can work for hundreds of blogs. And in the same way that we generated a Word document there, we could output that as an Excel report. There's no reason we couldn't also do things like custom ribbon controls and the other parts that we've seen. So in summary, what we've shown is some practical benefits from business blogging, some really great integration by customizing and working with Office 2007. It's a really nice experience for people to be able to get the best of both worlds. You're getting just the one feed you care about, so you're solving that problem of people getting information overload by having too many feeds, and that the tools are pretty interesting. They're something that you might want to work with, you might want to experiment with, and you can get a lot of these upcoming benefits, things like Ray Ozzy's talked about live clipboard. We've got templates for that, so you can take a look at that content. There's no reason your template couldn't generate, additional controls or documents in multiple formats for anything you're doing. And there'll be new and interesting innovations coming up in the future, too, using the APIs that we've got available. So what this really does, we think in a lot of ways, is gets you back to the benefits of being a geek in the first place. If you're here, you're probably a geek, even if you're in marketing or you're in sales. And I'm considered a suit in my organization compared to the guys who really do the hacking. And you know what? At the core, though, being a geek is really about having this bit of knowledge that other people don't have and finding some benefits from it. So showing people how the technology can benefit them, showing that there's something new and that it's something you're good at and they can learn from. There's a benefit to that, and it really is a reward from tying all these technologies together, getting stuff that has a practical benefit but is also fun to work with. And so that's one of the things I love about blogs. One of the reasons we like to get a chance to talk to people about them is they give you the best parts of being a geek, something practical and something fun. So bottom line, you should be able to use blogs in your Office. There's no reason not to plug them into Office today. The demonstration we showed, we were generating the WordML documents that work in Office 2003. And then when Office 2007 ships, along with backwards support for the OpenXML formats, you can use the new updated XML support to deploy to all the versions of Office you have across your organization. And in the past, anything this interesting would get you in trouble. That's really a great milestone now that these technologies are real enough that they won't actually get you, scolded, or you don't have to work on them in your free time or in your lunchtime just because you want to do something that's cool. And you'll get rewarded for it. You'll get credit for it, I think, for being able to see that there's innovation here, that there's something productive. A lot of you are going to be asked, well, what did you do at that MIX conference that, what's your tangible take-homes? Well, here's something that's practical, has a business benefit, and you'll actually get to work on it and do something fun as well. So that's the bottom line. You won't want to stick a fork in your eye. Thank you very much for the chance to talk about this. We really appreciate your attention today. Thanks. Cool. You're very nimble in the high heels. Very impressive.
Yeah, well, I had to walk all the way across this hotel to get here. All right. That's the end? Oh, okay.
That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this presentation today. We talked a lot about how you can integrate your applications into Microsoft Office, so places where you can reach people where they are working, not just where they're playing, by getting into both Outlook and getting into the Word and Excel and PowerPoint file formats. Thank you very much. You are free to move on to the next presentation, or of course, we'll be here for the next half hour for any questions you might have. Thank you.
I've also been asked to plug, sorry to cut you off, I've also been asked to plug that there is a microformats Birds of a Feather meeting at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So if everybody wants to, yes, this kind of feather will be there as well. If you want to participate in that, we'd be glad to see you there. So thank you very much.